Let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder today, man. One of the best teams in the league, but also one of, if not the youngest team in the league. I don't know their average age, but I'm pretty sure the last time I heard something about it, they were like top 3 youngest teams in the league. But top 3 both ways, right? We're looking at a team who is a half game back from the 1 seed in the Western Conference and effectively a half game back from the second best record in the league. This is a team that's balling out. This is a team that I feel like a lot of people thought was going to make a leap this season, but not the leap that they took, okay? After last season, people expected the Oklahoma City Thunder to make a leap, right? I believe they were a play-in team last season. Let's make that leap to a 4 or 5 seed, right? Effectively where the Clippers and the Pelicans are. But they took a bigger leap than a guy like me even expected, a guy who expected them to make a leap. Because as of right now, they are on pace to win 82 times 0.689. They are on pace to win 58 to 59 games. And depending on how they actually play, that can go higher. You know, what if they win 60 games? This is a crazy team. So, Thinking Basketball made a video regarding the Oklahoma City Thunder and if they can actually win an NBA championship, because the biggest doubt with this team so far is age, is experience. They're looking good, they're playing good, but listen, they haven't really made it to the playoffs. Can they really go from 0 to 100 real quick? Shout out to Thinking Basketball. Links will be in the description for his video. Let's get into it, bruh.
The Oklahoma City
Sponsored by
Thunder
Verizon.
currently have the second best record in the NBA
Damn.
and the second best point differential in the NBA. But are they too young to win an NBA championship? Despite their regular season dominance, betting markets consider the Thunder less likely to win than the Celtics, Nuggets, Clippers, Bucks, Suns, Timberwolves, 76ers, and even the New York Knicks.
What? I didn't know this. Hey, chat, I did not know this. Celtics, Nuggets, cool. I get that. Clippers, okay. Bucks, alright. Minnesota, even. Okay, cool. Right? That they're going back and forth with the for the best record in the West. But once we get to, at this point, Phoenix, once we get to Philly, post Embiid too? Post Embiid? And the Knicks, with all of their injuries? And they're not even like a proven commodity like that either? What is going on?
This is probably because they haven't made the playoffs since 2020, and their starters have less playoff experience combined than Jason Tatum racked up in his rookie season. And yet, at the same time, 85% of teams with OKC's point differential have reached the conference finals. So, is all that youth and inexperience really insurmountable? Before we answer that, let's understand just how good OKC's been.
Hey.
They've gone 25-9 in the last 2 months or so, defeating the Nuggets twice in Denver, the Timberwolves twice, the Clippers in a blowout, and the Celtics. In their December meeting against Minnesota, Rudy Gobert had a hard time chasing Chet Holmgren out on the perimeter. For instance, on this play, Chet just initiates the pick and roll. Rudy naturally sags under the screen. That opens the shot, but it's actually a give and go and another dunk. So the Wolves went to a zone.
Make Rudy Gobert run. Yeah.
In the second half to keep Rudy closer to the basket. But the whole problem is that Chet's a 40% three-point shooter right now.
Come here.
So on back-to-back possessions, the Thunder just went to a little flare screen. Gobert wants to stay home, and that stretches the zone too thin. In a recent video for the NBA, we talked about how OKC uses flare screens in transition to help spring Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in isolation. And here it is against the Timberwolves' Twin Towers, where Chet's threat to drive scrambles up the defense for a second, opening Jalen Williams, who's shooting 45% from three. And this is a really well-coached team. Josh Giddey's a weak shooter, so defenses will leave him to help on Shai, but then he just cuts into the space himself. And
I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to think of young teams who did win a championship without much playoff experience to the level of realistically speaking, this team hasn't made it to the playoffs. Like, there's a difference between making it into the playoffs a couple years, getting bounced out in the first round, and that third year y'all turn up and then make it to the conference. But first time in the playoffs, being a 58-win team, 2 seed, playing like this, the last time, the first example that comes to mind would ironically be the 2011 Thunder, right? The 2011 Thunder. So in 2010, and I wouldn't even say this is their first playoff run, right? So let's go back to 2009, right? 2009, they might have not even been the Thunder yet. Okay, they were the Thunder. 2009, 23-59, right? They already had KD. I believe they just drafted Russell Westbrook, and James Harden was not on this team yet. 2010, last season, obviously, they didn't make the playoffs. 2010, they jump up to, where is it? A 50-win team. They jump up to a 50-win team, become the 8th seed, where they face the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round, and get knocked out in 6. The year after that, they turn up to a 55-win team. That's one of the better records in the Western Conference, just one of the better records in the league, period, right? Kevin Durant turns into, I believe this was the first season where Kevin Durant was unanimously viewed as a superstar for a lot of people's eyes. 2010, he was probably already viewed as a superstar, but, I think this is the first season where everyone became more respected. Russell Westbrook at this point was 22-8-5. James Harden was coming into himself. Jeff Green was coming into himself. And this team, all while being 22, 24, 22, 21, have only been to the playoffs once, and they were a first-round exit. And this team made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Dallas Mavericks. Outside of that, any off-rip examples that I can think of, would you count the 2018 Celtics? When, they went into the playoffs with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, with Terry Rozier, Kyrie's out, Gordon Hayward's out, Al Horford is the only real vet on that team, and they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I guess, but that's such an anomaly case. I guess, and that's also in the East. That's also in the East. I'm thinking about it right now. What else? Young teams. Were the 04 Pistons a young team? And mind you, we're still talking about teams who wanted to. The two names that I named, the two teams that I named were not. They did not win. Excuse me. The Pistons. Chauncey was 27. Rasheed was already 29. Ben Wallace was 29. Yeah, I can't think of any young. You might have to go back to the Tim Duncan Spurs, right? 1999 Spurs. If we go to the 1999 Spurs, this team won a championship. This was Tim Duncan's first year. Tim Duncan was 22, but oh shit, yeah, this was not a young team. Literally everyone else was 30. Literally everyone else was 30. Outside of Antonio Daniels and Malik Rose and Tim Duncan. All right, this is not a young team. I don't know. But let's go back to the video, bro. That's crazy.
And this works with Chet, too. He has a ton of room to attack his man here. Mike Conley realizes that and slides down to help. So again, Giddey just back cuts him, and that's an easy pass and score. The next time they met in January, the Wolves put Gobert on Giddey so he could roam off him and clog the paint. And this downgraded OKC's shot quality because Gobert could at least help on penetrators around the hoop and sometimes take away Giddey's cuts on plays like this, or he could bother his shot on some of those attempts around the basket. This is the theory of how teams might defend SGA and the Thunder in the postseason, shrinking the floor like we've seen in prior playoff matchups and daring Giddey to shoot a bunch of low percentage threes. But then the Thunder can swap
The Jaylen Brown method. I feel it.
in another 40% three-point shooter like Isaiah Joe. And suddenly an opposing center has nowhere to hide against 5 shooters. And you can see Ivica Zubac struggling to stay with a guard deep into this possession.
Yeah.
A minute later, Zubac is trying to avoid coming out onto Holmgren, so Paul George takes him instead, but blows a tire, and then Chet can attack and make plays himself.
Big Chet.
So there are playmakers
Okay.
everywhere. On this trip, they bring Zoo into pick and roll. Chet's gravity freaks out both defenders, and now it's J-Dub's
Isaiah
turn
Joe.
for some no-look
Dot.
dime dropping.
Eee!
Williams is a great second star because he can initiate the offense in the half court. He can also push the pace when needed in transition and create that way. That's ridiculous.
Man, shout out to J-Dub, bro.
And so on one hand, he's sort of an alternate point guard when needed, but he can also just create his own offense and make difficult shots himself. Against the Knicks, he completely took over.
That boy J-Dub nice, man. That boy J-Dub is nice, man. Damn. How come? Yo, shout out to OKC, bro. Fuck, man.
Over the game in the fourth quarter with his shot making. And he actually leads the Thunder in fourth quarter scoring, ranking 12th in the NBA in points per fourth
Pull up.
on a scorching 68% true shooting. And because he's such a good outside shooter, he can play off the ball and finish what other players started.
Three.
Or he can
And
just use his
one.
length and
No
slippery
foul?
penetration to attack the rim himself. He's versatile on the other end too, because he can guard someone like Anthony Edwards in isolation. That was called a foul, but it's an incredible block for my money. And he can also guard a bigger body like Karl Anthony Towns, jamming up this hawk cut, then recovering back inside and helping on the roll man. And this possession basically goes nowhere because of that physicality and activity. Even though he's 22, he reads the game like a veteran, spotting this lob and getting up to steal it. And because he's so long, you'll see vertical plays like this, switching off.
I wonder what the conversation is going to be with this team 3 years from now. Hey, man, 3 years from now, this team ain't still got it done. Even though Shea is going to be 27, even though J-Dub is going to be 25, even though Chet is going to be 23, and motherfuckers are going to be like, man, we've seen this time in and time out again, man. When are they going to get it done? Y'all see how corny that sounds, bro?
Off Towns onto Gobert and defending the lob like a big man. Regardless of age, these are championship-level defensive plays. Michael Jordaning this block from behind before snapping off a perfect outlet to a streaking Joe.
Big
and
Joe.
OKC forces more turnovers than any other team in the league. So part of their success is turning defense into offense.
They got to trade Josh Giddey, though. I will say that. If there's one move that the Oklahoma City Thunder have to make, it is Josh Giddey. It is Josh fucking Giddey. They already have enough playmakers on the team to the point where they don't really need Josh Giddey. And Josh Giddey, while his stock is still relatively high, he's still a young dude. And young teams are gonna look at a guy, or not young teams, but teams are still inevitably gonna look at a guy, who's averaging 11, 6, and 4 as a 21-year-old as a valuable asset. I think they should have traded him when he was averaging 17, 6, and 8 last season. If anything, his stock went down this season, especially after Josh Giddey allegations. But yeah, they got to trade Josh Giddey, bro. This team is obviously set up to win now. We're already having these conversations about them being a championship contender. Why not trade a young asset like Josh Giddey to get something in return that is going to help you win now? It could just be a sharpshooter or something, bro. Like another sharpshooter. It could be another big, because I've heard... not heard, but I've seen problems with this team. Sometimes with Chet being down there. Sometimes it's just a little bit. They need a little bit more rim protection on the court, regardless. Like a rookie Chet can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? So if they can run a lineup where they could put Chet at the 4 and another solid big at the 5 and run big for real, I think that would help them a lot. But, like, what does Josh Giddey do for this team? So.
After a stop. The Thunder have the third most efficient offense in the NBA after a stop, so the outcome is a league-leading 20 points per game off turnovers. And they play small around Holmgren, but they make up for it with their agility and a ton of speed. And that speed means they can get out in transition and punish slower teams like this.
Hey!
They also make up for that size with length, so SGA and Jalen Williams can disrupt passing lanes, and they even have an elite rim protector in Holmgren waiting at the basket. And then Chet himself is fast enough to outrun other big men down the floor in transition. Holmgren's only a 21-year-old rookie, but he already looks like a big-time player. And he plays with an awareness and command that is often reserved for older stars. Look at his patience here on this play, staying down against Kawhi Leonard, only to recover and block Zubats. And on other plays, you'll see Sage-like awareness, switching onto Gobert in the post, and then spotting the breakdown early to slam on the breaks, and then incredible verticality to stop Ant at the rim. And if that's not enough, he hustles to the corner, but stays down on the closeout, and that is veteran-like discipline. So, can talent, poise, and good coaching overcome all this youth? Last year's Nuggets were one of the youngest title winners of the three-point era, with an average age of 27.5 on February 1st of the season.
Cool, and he'll probably bring it up, but the not the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, at this point in time, have been to the playoffs multiple times, right? So, obviously last year, in 2022, they were in the playoffs, and they were a first-round exit? Yeah, first-round exit to the Warriors. The season prior, they were in the playoffs again, and they were a second-round exit to the Phoenix Suns. The season prior, they were in the Western Conference Finals, and this is an underrated season for the Nuggets, bro. Motherfuckers forget, the Nuggets have been like a really good team since 2019 when they were a 54-win team, bro. KD was on the Warriors. And this season, they were a second-round exit, one win away from making it to the Western Conference Finals. So they've already made it to the Western Conference. They made it to the second round twice and were first-round exits, I believe, once. And I've been to the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years 4 years until they won a championship in 2023. So I don't think the Denver Nuggets are a good example.
When the Warriors broke through in 2015, they were just under 27 with 3 starters under 25.
Oh, true, the Warriors. I'm tripping. The Warriors are a good example. In all of this. But even the Warriors, I think people forget that the blow-up season, the glow-up season, whatever you want to call it, was 2015. Curry becomes an MVP. They become a solidified elite team, a 67-win team, all of that. But even with the Warriors in 2013, they were a 47-win team and made it all the way to the second round, pushed the team that was one shot away or one miss away from winning a championship to 6 games, right? And then the next season, they were a 51-win team, did get bounced out in the first round, but that's primarily due to matchups because they faced the Los Angeles Clippers, and that 57-win team in the first round, despite them being a 51-win team, and they pushed them still to 7 games. So, again, I think it's important to realize that we're looking at a team that hasn't made it to the playoffs since 2020. SGA was not SGA in 2020. They didn't have Chet back then. Lou Dort was on the team, so that's cool. 2020, they had a different coach. I believe it was still Billy Donovan. I may be wrong on that, actually. I don't know. Yeah, Chet was not on the team. J-Dub was not on the team. Josh Giddey was not on that team. Isaiah Joe was not on that team. Chris Paul was on that team. You know, Dennis Schroeder was on that team. Like, that's a completely different team. And then last season in 2023, again, 40-win team, and then they didn't make it to the playoffs and got bounced out in the play-in. So, if we're talking about leaps, this is still a bigger leap, a way bigger leap than the teams that he's mentioning right now.
The Thunder's average age is just over 24, with a whopping 6 rotation players under the age of 25. They'd likely pass the 77 Trailblazers.
Yeah. So on top of that, you're asking this team to make a bigger leap than the examples that you named, and the examples that even I thought of earlier, the 2011 Thunder, the 2018 Celtics. You're asking this Thunder team to make a bigger leap than the teams that you mentioned, and from an age perspective, they're just younger. I'm not trying to go, I think, in basketball right here, but just the idea of asking this team to win a championship is like, I don't know.
As the youngest NBA champ in league history, back when future MVP Bill Walton led a team with 5 rotation guys who were also under 25. Heck, only one other team in the three-point era has even made the finals with an average age around 25, and that was way back in 1981 when the 40-42 Rockets defeated the 40-42 Kansas City Kings before losing to the Celtics in the NBA Finals. It's actually really rare for any young team to be this good in the regular season. The 2022 Memphis Grizzlies were an under-25 squad that outscored opponents by at least 5 points per game. And the other team to do that this century was the 2011 Thunder. And that OKC team is probably the closest comparison to this one. They had a big 3 that was even younger, with their 4 top players aged 22 or below, and they made it all the way to the conference finals.
There you go.
In a way, this is actually good news for the Thunder because it means that so few young teams have ever been in this position, meaning even though it's rarely happened, the odds of it happening when you're this good might not be super low. OKC is currently top 5 in offense and defense, and they have the best point differential in the league against top 10 teams. So they certainly have the footprint of a championship level squad. And look, I'm not saying their inexperience and youth doesn't hurt them. We have no idea if defenses will chip away at Shea's effectiveness and what kind of playoff moves Mark Daigneault has in his bag. But if a really young team is going to break convention and make the finals or even win it all, this group of versatile stars that plays well beyond their years is as good of a candidate as any.
I think that's the main takeaway from the Oklahoma City Thunder Metal Steves. Excuse me, y'all. But yeah, that's the biggest takeaway with the Thunder is, listen, we can have these conversations about if they're ready right now, but let's not get it twisted. This is a team way ahead of schedule, bro. Way ahead of schedule. Everything that we looked at says that even for some of the best young teams of all time, for a team that has an average age of 24, 25, this team has no business of playing the way that they do, and being on pace to win 60 games, 58 games, 56 games, whatever the fuck it is. Like, this team is ahead of schedule. This is an anomaly. So while, yes, experience is a problem right now for this team, it will not be if they keep this core intact and no major injuries happen. You know what I'm saying? So, all in all, these are good problems to have. Are the Thunder too young to win a championship? These are good problems to have. As far as where I personally have them going deep in the playoffs, I also think while experience matters, let's not get it twisted. We're having these conversations for a reason. This is a really good team. And like Thinking Basketball said, the makeup is there. Top 5 defense, top 5 offense, from a spacing perspective, from a talent perspective, they got it. Even if you want to look at tier 1 player playing at a tier 1 level, criteria that I personally have, SGA is that dude. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. SGA is a tier 1 player in the league. Let's not get that twisted. So it's just the playoffs is really about matchups. A big part of it is about matchups. And if we just look at the playoff seedings right now, they're on pace to play one of either Sacramento, Dallas, LA, or Golden State. Do I see them sweeping those teams? I don't. I would personally, if I had to bet, I would still have the Thunder beating those teams. So I don't have them being a first round exit. But I'm not going to lie, if the Lakers go into the playoffs, LeBron and AD is on the other side of the court. Hell, even with the Mavs, man, Luka's on the other side of the court, anything can happen. Curry's on the other side of the court, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna still give these three teams a puncher's chance, but if I have to bet, OKC does move on. All right. And then in the 2-3 matchup in the second round, we're looking at either Denver, maybe LA moves up to 3, and we're facing LA in the first round. And I think in the second round is where this team caps off. You're looking at teams that are just hungrier to win right now. You're looking at teams that just have way more experience with comparable talent to you right now in the second round. Let me just say this. In the play-in conversation, Phoenix is in that category as well. When D-Book, KD, and them boys are on the other side of the court, I can't put anything past against them, but I'm still taking OKC. But in the second round, this is when you face deeper teams with more experience. And unless New Orleans somehow upset, well, New Orleans will be on the other side of the bracket, so I think it's inevitable that they're gonna face one of Denver or LA. That's when I think that's when OKC caps off. But even in that series, it's not like OKC's not gonna put up a fight. I see that series going to 7 games, right? And then at that point, if they do make it past the second round, like I'll in the second round, I'll give them like a 40% chance, 35 to 40% chance of making it past the second round if they face Denver or LA. If they make it past Denver or LA and they have to see either one of Denver or LA in the Western Conference Finals, I'm gonna say the same thing. It may be even lower because we're getting deeper into the playoffs. Motherfuckers are heating up this and the third. But I don't know, bro. I don't know. I really like this OKC team. Can they win a championship this year? If I just had to put on the possibility of them winning a championship this year, they got a puncher's chance just because of talent. Just because of talent alone. And I would even say that saying it's a puncher's chance is a disservice to this team's talent. So, yes, I believe the Oklahoma City they have a chance. And I'm not going to say it's impossible for them to not win a championship this year. But if I just had to bet on who's going to win a championship this year, I would bet on Boston. I would bet on Denver. I would bet on Milwaukee. And I would bet on the Clippers before the Oklahoma City Thunder. Everyone else is a wash. But with that being said, let me know what y'all think. And I'm out, man. Peace. Shout out to Thinking Basketball.